We are recording now.
We actually post these?
Yes, yes, yeah. The city clerk kind of goes through them and uploads them. So I think the February and March, the last two meetings are up on our website. Yeah, on the subcommittee page.
Okay, well, why don't we jump in? Do we start roll call? So John Tantrum, a community member.
We'll just say Peter Mark, council representative.
Tony Boyd, Public Works Director.
Chris Berry, associate engineer.
Patrick Slater, Finance Committee representative.
Okay, good. Next is approving the minutes from our March 25th meeting. Which, Tony, you had you distributed those previously?
Those may have been a link on the website, but it doesn't look like we have a printout of them here. So yeah, if you haven't seen them, we can certainly make them available for the next meeting. I'm not sure if there was
I guess
First of all, do we have, I can't vote anyway, is two a quorum?
yes,
It's 2 out of 3, so I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we, I have not looked at them, so why don't we not, unless you feel otherwise, let's not vote on that now.
Yeah,
We'll postpone that.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good, and my apologies for that, because I assume that we're with the agenda.
Okay, so that brings us to the meeting itself, and Tony, your memo dated yesterday was a useful summary. So I'll turn it to you to go through that and hit the key points of discussion.
All right, great. Yep, thank you, Chair. So I'm just seeing a phone call from Adrian. Looks like
I can email him
the link. Yeah, you should have it on the website. But we're being joined by Adrian Cormier, who's the construction manager. Yeah, so the purpose of this meeting is to update you on the developments that have occurred since we last met. I can run through my memo and share a couple of images of some of the details in it. So starting with the contract, City Council approved the contract as was recommended by this committee and staff to Gordon, awarded to Gordon N. Ball Construction. And that's been executed. So all the communications with them are now formal communications, and they've provided some submittals. And yeah, so we are moving forward with them. We've actually had a pre-construction meeting to establish, sort of the lines of communication and so on. And we've also had an on-site meeting, which I'll get into a little bit later. But as far as the project goes, starting with the permits, we have 2 outstanding permits. BCDC have approved our application, but their draft permit is in review, and they're unable to give us an exact date. They say they are trying to expedite it, but the only definite date that we know from them is they have to provide us with something by June the 22nd. So that's BCDC's.
So what does BCDC stand for?
That's the Bay Area Conservation and Development Commission. Yeah, yeah. And they regulate activities in the water from I believe it's the mean high tide line to 100 feet inland. So yeah, everything in that zone has to be approved by them.
So the June 22nd deadline, is that for a permit, or could they have something other than a permit by then, like a postponement or a?
No, that's for a permit. So yeah, that's yeah, they've said that the draft that they have is for an approved permit. Yeah.
And you have a completeness confirmation? or their equivalency of that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can,
Because to John's point, if they determine to prior, I'm sure that they're referring to the Permitting Streamlining Act, I should say. If they determine something's not complete, that will invalidate that date.
yeah, so my understanding is that they confirmed that the application is complete, in, sort of in the first stage. It was then approved, and then, the permit was drafted and is now in review. That's my understanding, and I can certainly confirm that with our consultants to just make sure that there's no possibility of any detours.
I certainly think the permitting process, we should, cross our T's and dot our I's, just to make sure at every step of the way that we're not doing something or leaving something off the table that needs to be done.
Right, yeah. I can certainly make sure that we get some of those details. The second outstanding one is the Army Corps of Engineers. And that's been quite a frustrating process. But to summarize where we are now with them is that they've started a formal consultation process, which means that they forward our application to other agencies for review. And it seems like NOAA, fisheries in particular, were interested in a more formal review. So we've now met with them and their biologist to just try and move this thing along as quickly as possible. Ask if there's any information that we still need to provide. They had said before the meeting, they had said we will likely need a survey, a benthrographic survey of the eelgrass beds near in the vicinity, which our consultant thought was unreasonable. That there are no eelgrass beds within 40-50 feet of the site. And
if that, I mean, does the marinas have anything? I mean, they could be conducting marine activities if they're eelgrass there, right? I mean, isn't that?
Well, I think if that is the main thing. Yeah, it's the problem was, so he had done a survey and he's a biologist himself, so he's able to provide a sort of, a survey within the guidelines that they need. But it was from land with binoculars. And they wanted something more substantial.
Okay.
He feels that this is not unfortunately not that uncommon sometimes, because if they just don't have very much information about an area, they might like to get that, and they'll use a project like this to obtain it. But we were able to, with another consultant, able to explain to them what it looks like out here. And they said they'd be fine with a preliminary survey. So at this point, that's what we're doing. We have a proposal for a preliminary survey, and then the potential pre-construction survey and post-construction survey are lined up as well in case that's needed.
When we did the prior beach wall retrofit, did we have to go through this?
Nope. And believe it or not, it was the same reviewer from NOAA who said it wasn't needed at that time.
So what's involved with the preliminary survey? Is this something we do a contractor to come do?
Yes, yeah. So we have a qualified, there's a company, I don't know exactly what the sort of certifications are that are needed, but it's a company out of San Francisco that's familiar with NOAA sort of parameters of what they need. They're going to come out at low tide, walk out as far as they can in the water and identify if there are any signs of eelgrass. And I believe probably similar to what our consultant had done previously, just from the land, estimating a distance of any signs of eelgrass. And then presenting it as, in a sort of a formal report.
So they have not done that yet? Is that scheduled to be done?
We're working through the details of the contract right now. They just need some insurance changes for us to be able to and for them to schedule the work and get the contract signed and move forward with that. But that said, the NOAA biologist said that she would finish up her, she was fine with our assurances that we were gonna go ahead and do it. We need the permit, you know, if this is what we need to do, then fine, let's do it. You know, she said it would be in the conditions, so she was happy to finalize all of her review and send it back to the Army Corps of Engineers. Yeah, when we asked, you know, how long did she think that would take? She said mid-June, probably.
Until she gets hers to the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yes, yeah, until she finalizes everything she needs to do. Yeah, there's a little bit of back and forth. She noted that they had lost 40% of their staff, and that this project was actually close to the top of her pile of work in her inbox, I guess. But in any case, she expects to return it to the Army Corps of Engineers in June, middle of June. Communications with the construction manager, who is familiar with these permits, more familiar than I am certainly, said that they usually turn it around quite quickly once the Army Corps have received their documentation. But we don't have an exact timeline for that. And they don't have the same statutory limits that ECDC do. So at this point, that's as far as we know for that permit. And yeah, we're in touch with them constantly, reminding them that we have a schedule and that's our deadline. The window that we're working in starts on June the 1st and closes on October 30th. That's the environmental window. If it goes beyond October 30th, we need special permission for that. And it's usually either a daily or a weekly permit that we obtain. So it's not something that we plan on having to do. But yeah, that is the sort of the loose end that we don't have any control of right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to utility coordination, and I will actually share my screen here so we can take a look at the utilities on the site. Chris, are you able to turn me into a panelist, please? All right, thanks.
George. Are any of those attendees people who should be at the meeting?
It's Adrian Cormier, the construction manager.
But do you want to put him up? I mean, because he can't talk if he's not but elevated to a panelist, I think.
Well, that should come up in a second. Okay. I'm just going to turn the screen. I think it might be. See. Just gives us a view of what we're dealing with in here. The main work that needs to happen before the project is a PG&E joint trench, which is this yellow and black line.
Want to get up there, check things out?
Maybe, yeah, that would be good. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, there's a delay. There we go. Yep, it's that yellow and black line over there.
Is it also the one on the other side of it too? Right there, Chris, to your left.
Right here.
Nope, keep going. Right there is,
So that's a Comcast.
okay,
Yeah, that is also yellow and black, you're right. Yeah, okay. That's not a joint trench that Comcast are using, but they are participating in the joint trench on the right-hand side of the screen. So that joint trench will be removing all of the existing utilities, which are shown with the black hash marks through them. So they're all going to be replaced with this joint trench here. That's going to reconnect all the homes. That will be in place before the project so that when excavation begins and the sheet piles all go in this road, the in-road alignment, there's going to be no disruptions to the properties because of that.
do they dig up the old services or just abandon them where they are?
I believe they just abandoned them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They usually just cut and cap
Yeah,
at the end, it'll be good.
yeah. The water line that's shown over there, there's a 4-inch water line, will be a separate project. And the water district will be, I think they have already installed two temporary shut-off valves and pipe that they'll be able to. So when the road is excavated and the sheet pile work begins, they'll come and shut off the valves, remove their pipe, let the sheet pile pass, and then return it as soon as it's complete.
why are they able to cross the sheet piles where other ones can't?
Well, the main reason is they're actually more nimble. So they can be there on the day or in the morning of the construction. And so they can plan to just be there for that, wait until the sheet piles have passed and then restore the line. PG&E can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
So the options for PG&E were either to install a temporary bypass for until construction was complete. And then reconnect their line, or reconfigure their whole.
So that's their only penetration for all those properties below it, and it goes horizontally from there.
Yes, exactly.
So
And
that's all the water needs to do is what Chris showed us, that one line. That's it.
Yeah,
They
that's
just need to
that,
disconnect and connect to bypass the work,
yeah, just for that
the piles,
30.
and then the normal connections remain.
yep, exactly.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and that's gas. There are two gas lines actually. So the two coming down from the other side of the street that have hash marks, and then a single electric line that are being abandoned and replaced. Yeah, over there. Sewer. There's a sewer district line, which is the green one on the left-hand side. That's actually a private lateral that goes to the sewer district line. And that's the contractor will be excavating, exposing, and similar thing to what the water district's doing, capping and then
Meaning
restoring.
Hadley or Gordon.
Gordon and Bull, yeah.
So when they do that particular area, they'll just literally cap and reconnect.
Yes, yep, exactly, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Comcast, okay, so the next.
Do they know what that is? I mean, could that be play in the street?
I don't recall, did we, I know there was,
The sewer, they sanitary SD5, they don't know if it's not their line,
right,
so it could be anything, but
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were hoping to do the same thing on West Shore a couple of years ago, and we're expecting it to be PVC, and it wasn't, and that caused some problems.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, clay is a lot more difficult to.
Well, you can't cut and replace as easily.
Right, yeah.
But
Yeah.
they'll be prepared, I imagine.
Yes, yeah, and it's kind of on them to be prepared. Thankfully, not that we don't want to also know, but yeah. So let's see, the next area of utilities is not really shown in this image because these are all the PG&E ones, but I will get to the right page here. And yeah, we can look at these gangways. So over here, as you can see, we've got At gangway 1, we've got water, gas, and electric that all converge at gangway 1, and then that's how this building, this first building, 16 to 20 Beach Road, has its utilities. Gangway 2 has no utilities, and gangway 3 has water and sewer and Comcast cable. And that's a different part of my memo here, but yeah, so I don't want to jump to that too soon. Let me find my notes. Right.
Tony, none of the utilities that you've been talking to have raised timing issues or obstacles with the schedule. Is that correct, or what's the summary there?
Right, yeah, thank you. The PG&E were the main concern because they had to schedule a fairly big project for that joint trench. And the interesting thing with PG&E is that gas and electric are almost separate entities. They really barely ever communicate with each other, and so getting them to communicate for a joint trench was interesting. We do have a date from them though. It took a while, but they finally got a date to us, and that is last week of June and first week of July is when they have scheduled this work. They've applied for encroachment permits, so that's they've assured us that that's the soonest they can get to it. And they're committed to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that when they do that, their work will include temporary electric service for the private facility, the private buildings over here that we'll get to in a minute.
And their work could go whether we've been done or not.
Correct. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It needs to happen before the project. In any case. So yeah, just that they're doing it is the main thing.
But none of the other utilities, and you didn't mention AT&T, are they there too? Is that another?
No, they're not. So they had a single copper wire that that was not in service and won't be brought back into use. So they were happy to abandon that.
So it's only Comcast that's providing telecom?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. They're the only provider up there. Cable. Yeah. Yeah.
Would it make sense to put in additional conduit for future expansion? I mean, I know Tiburona, we've talked about broader telecom and fiber and other connectivity. Would it be, I mean, they were talking about that with the 131 project is just laying down conduit for some future, service provider.
It's an interesting thought. I think because and maybe that might be useful for the in-road work. But I think because the top height elevation of the sheet piles is quite far down the wall, anything that would need to come through to the homes would be above the finish.
I know, but why rip it up? I mean, that's a point. If you this is not appropriate.
Yeah, no, but it's,
yeah, I know.
I mean, it's like while we have it open.
I'm actually surprised AT&T's not wanting to throw it in there while they're setting it.
Well, I think normal telecom is just abandoning, area after area.
Yeah.
That was the issue with 131 is that no one wants to service this area with anything wired.
They don't want to dig.
It's just not worth their. They won't get the service agreements down the road for the level of infrastructure improvements.
It's amazing. Comcast and AT&T, whenever we deal with them on anything, to try and be proactive, for example, temporary service here that will be needed. They are very reluctant to do anything. They're pretty much the only time that they will come out definitely is when something's broken and they need to repair it.
Well, I mean, our contractors, Gordon, they should be able to do it.
Yeah,
It's not high technology.
correct, yeah, and so we're actually doing that. We're basically setting the whole thing up for them to be able to pull their wire through for a temporary connect, and they've confirmed that they'll be there for that. But yeah, they're not having to do any work for it. They just, arrive and plug it in. But that's fine. It's not, it's not difficult or costly work. Yeah, two more things with the utilities, actually going back to that. And speaking of Comcast. Hold on. So that's that line that you pointed out on the left-hand side over there. That is a Comcast line. So that will reconnect their line that's going to be cut with the sheet piles. So they have two access lines to these buildings. One from that side, and the other that will now be coming through the joint trench on the other side. Another issue that when we met with the contractor and these utilities on site, another issue that came to light was a sewer line that was basically at Main Road that hadn't been marked in the original surveys or the initial surveys of the site, so it isn't shown in the plan, and that runs under the seawall. So that's going to have to be dealt with one way or another. It's about 10 feet from the end of the extent of the sheet piles. So that's something that we're going to ask the contractor for a submittal for how to bridge over that.
I'm sorry, I was writing something. What was that? What was that service for?
Yeah, so it's a sewer line that wasn't marked in the first in the first stages of the design, really, when all the utilities were being marked out. And I can show a picture of that as well. But yeah, the important thing really is that it's there. Yeah, let's see. So that's where we are with utilities. Basically, that loose end is tied up as far as PG&E are concerned. Where the modifications are concerned with the private utilities, I'll move into next, because that's an area that we're looking at quite closely right now. The team feels that there is potential for improvement in that area. The engineering design originally called for the seawall or the sheet pile alignment on the outside of the seawall to cross through all of these gangways.
Under them.
Sorry, yes, under the gangways, which means removing the gangways and making sure that all the utilities to the residents are not impacted, or bypasses and temporary services are provided and so on. So you can see the total alignment here, and the area that we're talking about is sort of just actually in the overlap pretty much of those. It's those
three gangways right there, right?
Those two and gangway 1 as well, actually, is what we've been focused on. There's the original proposal for those was for the alignment that's in the street, alignment B, basically to continue past all the gangways and then overlap with the alignment on the seaboard side, just as it does right there.
So that's the blue line there extending past all the one on the topmost blue line extending all the way past the gangway number 1. That was the original.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. That was the original proposal. And after looking at it closely, the design engineers and speaking to the geotech, found that it was not cost effective. The costly part of that is the beams that need to go across from the the sheet piles in the street need these reinforced beams to connect to the seawall. And that would have been very costly. The other thing actually is that at gangway 1, there's a cluster of utilities in the street that would have made it very difficult for the contractor to install the sheet piles there.
So at the end of the building, I don't know the address, I can't see that, but before the gangway building, you've now shifted that to the water side to the extent of the gangway building. Right? That upper blue line was longer to the right before, now it's longer to the left below it. Right?
Yeah, well, so that's, yeah, exactly. And this actually came up in the early stages of the design. It was discussed, just because it was, clear that there were going to be issues over here. So this is the original design right now. There's an overlap over here, and this alignment over here has these reinforced beams that go across and connect to the seawall with these helical anchors that are all driven in as well. So the first proposal was to basically extend that just past that gangway, so that there's that same kind of overlap over here, and then continue on the seaboard side over there. Yeah, it wasn't cost effective, and the geotech.
So this is but this is a revised plan.
Right, this is revised.
This is the original.
No, it's saying this is original.
Yeah, this is revised from the early design conversation. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is the 100% plan that went out for bid.
Oh,
There was one
Yeah.
considered before that that extended that
got it.
wall.
Exactly. It was considered in early stages of design, and what brought it up was
I'm sorry, so
yeah.
this is better, or we're going back to what was considered before?
well, so this is in place basically, until construction, but we are trying to find ways to improve it.
So you'd rather put it in the street where those gangways are?
That was so yeah. Where the gangways are is where there's a sort of complex set of issues.
Sure.
So putting it in the street was one option that the team looked at, and first of all, it wasn't cost effective because of the beams. Second of all, the geotechnical engineer was. There are issues with it from the geotechnical perspective because it doesn't provide toe protection for the seawall. So right now, there's erosion that's happening from from the waves over here. But there's a building right here, right on the seawall. So the erosion doesn't impact this section of the seawall as much as it does over here. And in fact, this section over here is where it's the worst. So over here, it's acceptable to the geotech to put the alignment behind the seawall and connect it with beams. But over here, he didn't like that idea, basically. He basically said, if you're going to do that, if you're going to have this extended out to here, then you'd also have to add toe protection on this side of the wall in any case. Because that would, you're losing that then. If that makes sense. Yeah, you'd be cutting this out. See, this part of the alignment would be removed, and basically moved to the back of the seawall over here, which would leave the front of the concrete seawall there exposed.
Right, but now you're considering an alternate to this currently
Yes.
approved. And what might that look like? What might the newly considered alternate be?
Yeah, so I can share with you exactly what we've been discussing, because it would probably be helpful. Yeah. Put it up here, but. All right. So this is probably actually quite useful. share what I was just talking about first. Okay, so yeah, basically that's yeah, but very basic sketch of what was being discussed. So along the top there would be the continued alignment of the sheet piles, and then you'd have these beams going across to the seawall. Yeah, so that's
But I thought you said they didn't want to do that.
yeah, correct. Yeah, sorry, I'm really just illustrating.
Okay, sorry.
The
So that's not proposed either. That was
No.
one, we're at two, you're proposing three.
yes, exactly, and it's really just to give you an idea of how this is all being discussed and how, you know, kind of different ideas have been arrived at. And yeah, so I can share what we have here. This is what we're discussing right now. So it's a much more surgical approach. Which I guess. This is in the full screen. I can, yeah, just do a quick run through. So basically these red lines over here.
Say a little better.
That's all right. Yeah, I think it is. Would be where new alignments would be. So basically at each gangway. So we've got the two gangways here, one there and one here. We've actually moved on from this design because we discussed this with the contractor and said, how feasible do you think this would be? Before we go into, you know, get a technical drawing to you. They looked at it carefully. They came back and said that this gangway over here is not doable, not like this, because of all these utilities that you've got in this area. Their recommendation was to stick with the plan, remove this gangway, and keep with the outboard alignment of sheet piles. So we've taken that on board. Over here, this is a complicated gangway because you have a sewer line that actually runs on both sides of the gangway, quite low down, closer to the water. And you also have a water line that runs through there. The sewer line runs all the way around the footing. There's a concrete footing under this gangway. And part of it would be above, exactly above where these sheet piles would be driven in. So that would all have to be removed temporarily, bypasses installed, possibly with pumps, and then restored afterwards, which is complicated. And so this section here, this gangway doesn't have any utilities. So this is actually the easiest gangway to remove. The only disruption to residents is access. Right now, we're down to this one. So basically over here, at this gangway number 3, it's called, the sheet piles on the outboard side would start over here, end over here, and then on this side they would start here and continue over there. And we're going to have a section of sheet pile under the sidewalk. This is the proposal. We've yet to see the cost. It seems like it should be cost effective, especially considering all the utility kind of work that would be needed for it. It also would be less disruptive for the residents because it would keep access open for longer. The gangway wouldn't be removed.
So the 30-foot sheet pile installed along the back of the seawall, that wouldn't penetrate or interfere with utilities?
It would.
Theory.
So right. So yes, there would still be utility work needed over here, but it would be a lot easier, basically, under the sidewalk over here. Over here, it would be a problem. But over here, it's doable. Or I should say it's not as complicated to do it under the sidewalk as it is to do it under the gangway.
Is it cheaper to do that, or is it just because you can't, because you're not removing the gangways?
Well, we've yet to get an actual proposal from them with cost. But the gangway removal is fairly straightforward. It's a carpentry task that's it involves some custom work, so it is detailed. But because the utilities are servicing the homes with people in there and they need to be maintained, that's what makes all the utility work costly, really.
No, I know. I'm trying to understand how this option is less expensive than removing it, installing the sheet piles as planned, and putting the gangways back, because you still have utility work. The only difference seems to be you're putting inland sheet piles versus waterbound sheet piles, and you're even putting the shallow sheet piles there for aesthetic purposes. It says in the note. So I'm trying to understand how is that a cheaper option? It may be. I'm not.
Yeah. No, it's and maybe let me show you a picture of that gangway so you can get a sense.
We don't need to get into too much detail. I guess if it's cheaper because you're not removing the gangway, that's the answer.
Partly, yes.
That's the answer, because if that inbound just against the wall rebolted, we don't have to do the detached separate connectors, which you talked about before. I remember last meeting we talked about that, and there was a question: is why are we detaching it so far? Like, why don't you put it right up against the wall? And here they seem to be proposing this now, but there was some reason why you didn't put it up against the wall the whole way. Because I didn't think there was a question: why are you doing anything waterbound? Why wouldn't you just put it right along the wall on the inside and bolt it to the wall?
Right.
And there was some discussion that it was better to give some distance, especially where the building was.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I don't recall what that was, why we're not doing it directly under the sidewalk instead of under the curb. Do you remember, Chris?
Yeah, it's to protect rotation a little better.
No, so further away. Why are we doing it further away for a common beam?
Well, these ones out here, you mean?
Yeah.
I think it's
But they also said they couldn't get close enough to the building to do it where the building is. You had to do it some distance out because the machinery couldn't come up against a flush wall.
Right. So that is definitely one factor.
But I'm saying if there's some logic, and we don't need to spend too much time on this, because I think this is beyond this is your guys' expertise by all means. But if there's some logic that it's more cost effective, with the exception of where the building is because of the adjacency of the building itself, to put it inside the wall.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that everywhere?
Right.
Frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, but if it's only because you're not removing the gangway, that might be the answer.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, that's definitely part of it. I think so. The utilities are still a complication. It's still. I think over here, one of the differences here is that the erosion is worse on the wall over here because of the building that's right here that butts up against the wall. There's protection of the wall over here, so it's not as critical for the sheet piles to be close to the wall.
Understand.
So that's one thing. So they can be further away, and there are utilities in the sidewalk, so it's not as you're not dealing with utilities as much by having it further away. Over here, you have utilities, you're going to have to deal with them. But you also have to be under the sidewalk because the erosion is worse here that the wall's experiencing. And there's no protection other than this alignment. And the protection over here would still be needed. It would be a small section of basically matching the rest of the seawall. There just wouldn't go down 32 feet. It would be a formed concrete.
So if we were to, this is be considered, but it doesn't change the timeline or it could fit within our original timeline and broad budget, essentially.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The timeline would stay the same, would remain the same. And it would have to be cost effective. It would have to be worth yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, that disruption to the residents and project coordination really are the main things we're looking at. So Hadley Construction were, that's who we had originally planned to do this work. Their costs seem to be quite fluid, unfortunately. They haven't been able to give us an exact price of how, what it'll cost to do all of this work. They would prefer to work with a time and materials contract, and we're not comfortable with that for a start. And then the other thing is, now that we have some unit prices from this contractor, we may be able to, we've asked them to provide a quote for similar work. Some of it would still be in Hadley's hands, but yeah, so.
So the 270, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
You're not getting a firm contract from Hadley, so you're considering having Gordon and Ball do some of it and Hadley do the rest of it, but still stay within 270 if they're.
Exactly. Yeah. So the costs, those costs, that 270 has shifted, and it's moved up. Basically, they're above 300,000 now. So, and yeah.
But you're saying that but you're not Hadley, that is.
Hadley. Yeah.
And so that's the way you're describing them being fluid, or.
Yes, exactly. It's been quite difficult to get a set price from them. And they've explained, they've been transparent about it. They said, we need to add a cushion in here. If we're going to give you a set price, we need enough of a cushion to be comfortable. They would prefer to work with time and materials, but in that case, then they're not comfortable with a not to exceed amount of,
and are they the only game in town? I mean, are they?
No, exactly. This is and the reason that Hadley's were specified is because they've just done this work. They built those gangways less than 2 years ago and installed all of those utilities. So they're familiar with the configuration of the utilities, the layout of the scaffolding, everything that they needed before. As far as efficiency goes, they would be able to be in there, do the work, and get out of there. So it made sense. They're also, familiar with the residents and have worked in these buildings, I believe, many times. But yeah, there's a couple of issues. One of them is that they're not a union shop, and the contractor is. Construction site sharing is apparently a problem. I think even without union issues, I think there can be friction, and it's something that the prime contractor, Gordon and Ball, they basically said, we would prefer to control the whole project. And if you can allow us to do that, we can give you a proposal for this work, including the modifications. So,
Are you doing that?
Yes. Yeah. We're preparing it's actually kind of as we speak. The design engineers are putting together a conceptual sketch that we're going to send over to them to get their price.
Is there any rationale to, considering that time is of the essence from with our water bound work, is there any work that Hadley could be doing before the union contractors are on site with a permit, since we have control over the work that Hadley's doing, arguably?
Yeah.
Can they advance that work? Could they be doing that sooner than the project?
Yes. And in fact, Hadley are still, they're not off the table, because if we get a quote back from the contractor that's higher than Hadley's, then we're gonna go back to Hadley, basically. But their portion of the work was planned for before this contract starts. So go in there before the big project starts, remove all the gangways, set up the temporary utility lines, and then move off the site. Then the prime contractor comes in, completes the project, and then Hadley returns to restore all those.
But it does seem like if Gordon Ball can do that work, it might be more efficient to have them just do all aspects of it rather than have a handoff between them and Hadley. And Hadley's not known to be an inexpensive operator.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would guess that Ball could undercut them, and it might be a simpler, less coordination and a better approach ultimately.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely the impression that we get.
And I don't personally know, just because they did this work 2 years ago, doesn't mean that the same person's gonna be there doing it. I mean, I don't know what familiarity means, and when you look at it, you probably see what they did and
Yeah,
undo. So,
yeah, at the end of the day, I think that's this is what we're exactly discussing. You know, it's not, Hadley are not rocket scientists. This is not that difficult. So Gordon Ball should be able to manage this, especially if they've already said that they would like to.
can I move on to, I had a question about the easements by the property owners.
Yes.
I didn't see that addressed here. Have you
Right,
seen
yeah.
any easements?
Yes, so we have 3 temporary construction easement contracts that have been approved. Not signed yet, but they were approved at the last city council meeting, and they've been approved by the property owners as well. So that remains to be executed, but yeah, everybody's on the same page with that. Yeah, so there were questions about kind of different details of the work. And it is a question, my understanding is that if there are changes to the works, such as these changes here, that won't change any of the substance of the agreements, that, you know, maybe the scope, the description of work, but not.
And the council didn't approve the agreements per se, they approved the city manager's ability to execute the agreements.
Correct, yeah, right, so, yes.
But the important thing is that the property owners are not resisting and are agreeing to them.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're yeah, in fact, the land company are enthusiastic about the work. They've been aware of the issues with the seawall, so yeah, they're happy to see it going ahead. And then the other 2 lots are owned by the same group, the Strauss Group. And they had a lot of questions. I think they were sort of wanted to learn about what was going on. And we had been updating the land company from the start of the project. We didn't, yeah, it was only in January, I think, that there was a changing of hands. But yeah, no, so the easements, construction easements are in place. Yeah.
We should probably try and keep moving if we want to finish in the next 10, 15 minutes or so.
Right.
Let's move to the schedule, because I think that's just what are your you know, are there any, you mentioned the August I think 3rd date, are there any key dates that you need to achieve and or at least strive to highlight those?
Well, yes, so August the 3rd is using the 65 working days estimated working time that the design engineers have provided. August 3rd is the latest start that we can have with a flexibility.
You talk about water work and non-water work. Is that 65 days for the whole project or just?
Whole project.
So in theory, it's a lot less water work.
Correct, yes.
Does BCDC or that moratorium care? I mean, like if you're working, what I mean is if you're working inland of that, is it still prohibited or is it only just literally the work on the water?
It's only the work on the water, so the outside of the.
Have you guys with our project managers and or Gordon Ball, have you put together sort of a schedule specifically identifying scope of work which isolates water work? So that's my word, not your word as far as water work, but I mean, that so that if you had to, you know, focus on working outside that window elsewhere other than water, you could still get it done.
Right, not yet, no. Yeah, I think we just don't feel that we're there yet. And I think as we communicate more with the Army Corps of Engineers, we've asked them if there's any way we can have some kind of provisional permit or provisional approval. For example, just some way that we can kind of start moving ahead. We can give the contractor a notice to proceed and so on. They're not easy to work with. But in any case,
does their approval also is that required for Hadley's work? I'm calling it Hadley's work, but
No, no,
So arguably, someone could go out there today and relocate the piers. And I know we wouldn't do it for the fear of not having the project go forward in this window. I get that.
Yep.
But just theoretically,
yes.
could they go out there? Is anything stopping either Gordon and Ball or Hadley going out there and removing the piers, creating a pathway for people to get in and out and working on the utilities?
No, no, I mean, we'd need to, obviously give them the notice to proceed, but yes, that would be possible. So we could certainly do some of the groundwork with, to minimize the time needed for in-water work. But yeah, I think because we're still planning on having the contractor provide us with a schedule to fit within the 65 days. We haven't started thinking about those parts. Well, I mean, we have them in mind, but we haven't. I guess you could call them contingency plans. We haven't sort of moved into.
Well, in a project like this, you would have to think that it's not really a contingency; it's sort of a requirement. I'm just throwing it out there that you may want to consider having, unless it's literally an additional cost to do so, but I don't know that it necessarily will be.
Right.
But come up with a methodology that packs the water work into the middle of the project, which is by definition when you'll have your window.
Right.
So that you can do the preparation work, as efficiently as possible, do the water work all when you have to do it.
Yeah.
And if you still have 2 months worth of work afterward, it's not, project threatening, because if your window closes, you're out of the water.
Right.
These 65 working days, is that the number of in-water working days, or is that?
No, that's the whole project.
So roughly how many of those days are in water? Is it 10 or?
That's a good
40 or
question.
50?
And I would say that, based on the alignment lengths, it's maybe 60 to 70% would be in water.
So like 40 or so days in water. So that 40 days counting back from October 30th does make a potentially later start date.
Yes, right, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
But you can only do that if you have figured out how you can do it efficiently.
You're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to throw into that, the piece of equipment that the city has specified is needed for this work is called a Geiken or Deacon silent driver. And it's a very expensive piece of equipment to mobilize. So the contract
By definition, they're going to limit it and make it efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
But also may not be available at any moment, right? It may be scheduled for other projects and it needs to be given.
We haven't heard from the contractor that there's any potential for that. But we're definitely aware of that.
And is Gordon Ball also flexible? Are they able to start kind of in line with our permit availability? Are they showing flexibility?
At this point, yes. Yeah. I mean, they were ready to go as soon as possible. They had said early to mid-June. They anticipated being ready. At this point, we've asked them to sort of push that back to early July. And they've been understanding. They know how permitting agencies operate. So they were very the permits and PG&E were their two almost first questions. So PG&E has been buttoned down at this point, and it's the outstanding permit.
And you said the window is June 1 to October 30th?
Yes, yeah.
I'm just curious if there's any, focusing on the residents here a little bit more. I mean, I personally think a project from June 1 or even June 15 to July 15 or August 1st, something like that, is a much different project than August through October.
So people being around.
Yeah, in our city.
Mm.
I mean, it looks like we're looking like it's gonna be an August, October
Right.
type project, and even if we have to extend the non-water work beyond October, it's getting into November and December, which is, don't want to do it work here, both weather-wise and also people-wise. I mean, is there a logic, risk notwithstanding, of, at least having a contingency plan, get everything lined up, and then starting, June 15th of next year? because I think there is a big community impact. Doing this project in June and July and early August is much better with a little bit of shift there than doing it in August, September, October, November.
Well, that's something we haven't considered.
No, I know, and I know that's an economic issue as
While
well.
it is slightly less convenient, there may be more people around in September and October and the schools are in it. It feels like there's so much sort of work and momentum.
Oh,
towards
to be
these
sure,
days.
to be sure.
And that the slight heightened inconvenience is not worth, not worth it, changing the schedule is in my opinion.
Plus, we don't know, is the contract and the fee valid for over a year? Probably not.
It would be too bad if it's built in this September, October, but it's a minor inconvenience in the scheme of things, I think, so.
Yeah,
I guess I'm agree. I'm just saying, just in the back of your mind, like, as this schedule pushes and as we start, hearing from the Army Corps of Engineers later in June and as things happen, if we're pushing this too far into the fall, I think it's more of an inconvenience than just minor, but that might be my perception. I think schools are a big deal and traffic on those roads picks up quite a bit. Weather will impact it more.
yeah, I think it's, well, so, I think in the team's sort of mind, that's been a sort of a last resort, really. It's just,
And it should be
if
last
this,
resort. You're right.
if this Army Corps is not gonna come through, then we're gonna have to, start negotiating with the contractor, whether they can, what pricing they can retain for next year and so on. But the question of sort of public convenience is, that's something that we haven't really sort of included in the conversation. I mean, other things, a big inconvenience to begin with. But yeah, if there is a big difference,
We also have to figure is our capital gain on the 3.6 a year versus. I don't think it will be, but just, it's not a bad thing to think about as a lot, I mean, John's right, as a last.
I think Helga's did
last-
this,
last-
actually.
So the Army Corps approval, I mean, I don't know if there's other, I'm sure you're pressuring them, I don't know if there are other things we can do to, calls from the mayor or calls from other community members to US representatives, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of how we can influence that.
I mean, great question, and I did put that to our consultants. Is there anything more we can be doing at this point? Where can we apply pressure? And he said it's, I mean, his take was that they're kind of an immovable object. They're a federal agency, and they're not very transparent, and you kind of have to be a squeaky wheel. I'm sure mayor, council members, maybe, a letter or something from, or even the subcommittee actually would,
I assume you are being a squeaky wheel, is that right?
yeah, exactly.
Bugging them.
We're sort of tag teaming on it with them,
Talk-
sort of among ourselves.
I think John's making this a great point. I mean, talk to them if they'd like to draft a letter that the mayor can sign. I'll talk to Sally about that. I'm sure we can do that. To a degree, it's just adding to the squeaking.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's, it can't hurt.
I mean,
If it's federal, maybe our member of Congress.
Maybe the
Right.
senator.
Or senator.
That's a very good point.
It seems like we should prepare for that. And
yeah.
Like,
I mean, time is getting short, but that'll all take time to do, so.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
okay, well, we should probably consider any final things we want to cover here. Tony, were there other things we haven't?
Two other things that I hadn't included in the memo really, because like I say, it's sort of as we speak, sort of discussions. One of them is that there was a suggestion from the contractor that we move the people living there into a hotel for a few nights. That would allow them to cut and cap all the utilities, do the work. They wouldn't have to do the bypasses and the temporary services to keep people. And there would be disruptions in any case to those people living there, even with the bypasses. So that was an interesting suggestion and something I ran by Robert this morning.
How many households, how many homes is it?
There are in 16 to 20, there are three homes. Is it 7 total from 16 to 30?
Seven.
Yeah,
4 and 3.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah. So that's, something we'll definitely,
And make it attractive. I mean, they could stay locally or they could go somewhere else if they want to take a
gosh.
time. I mean, couldn't we give them a, I don't know, a budget and say go? somewhere
Well,
else?
as a contractor, I mean, I'm sure the contractor's saying it's on us. It's not a huge amount of money, but I'm sure it's making it easier for them too.
Exactly, well, that's,
So
yeah.
you wonder if it should come out of their contract price, because it's gonna make it easier for them.
Right, yeah, and well, so we said, what would your cost, if we were able to do that, what would your cost for that section of work be? So they are gonna look more closely at it and hopefully give us a
If
number.
you tell them they can say the motel down the road, they're gonna be like, no, don't do it. But
Yeah.
if they don't lodge, it's a run lodge. If you tell them you can go, put this $1,500 for the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay, it's like, oh, that's so, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, look at the numbers, I mean, 270,000, kind of, just affordable.
Oh, it's on that contract versus, I thought you meant the broader contract.
Well, it would be on the broader contract, yes, but yeah, just as a sort of a number for just that portion of the utilities and the gangways kind of thing, which would actually, the gangways would still need to be removed, but.
I mean, it's a $20,000 number at the end of the day, if it's a few nights, for 7 households.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're gonna sort of be, $1,500 a night, it's gonna have to be attractive like that, I would think, for someone to.
Yeah.
Want to do it.
yeah, so, yeah, just another angle that we're sort of looking at, I guess the thing is it's all or none, really. If one person doesn't want to do it, then, we can't, make it,
I think at least
Yeah.
some of them make them temporary, and not temporary, I don't know if they're all full-time residents, I think some of the ones are part-time residents, I believe, so. might not be-
right, yeah, good.
They're all renters, but we do part-timers still here.
Yeah, good point. And I believe a couple of those units are empty. So they're not all, it's not 7 full, it might be only 5.
And since they're all rentals, I mean, all rental agreements have utility outage provisions. So arguably, it's not that the landlord can't legally do that.
Right,
And we're the landlord's
Yeah.
agent in that aspect.
right. Yeah, and I think, Chris actually mentioned this.
I think our general guidance or general sort of thought with this also related to the new option as far as outbound of the gangways not moving is like knock your socks off. But obviously our provision or our guidance is to keep it sort of cost neutral or cost positive. Right?
Yeah.
When it becomes cost negative, that's where you really want to question the logic, because we have a guaranteed, type of arrangement with someone more than we wanted, but nonetheless we have that. So let's not go from there upward. Let's add things and subtract things and modify things as they are cost benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really our primary aim. Yeah.
So you said there are 2 things. That was one.
Yes, so that was one. The other, yeah, it was, I guess, to share a traffic control plan that was just submitted today. If you're interested in seeing that. Just because this is so this is provided by the contractor, submitted. We would still need to approve the official traffic control plan. Okay. Adrian, do you have a comment?
I think, well, several things. I'm sorry. I apologize, but the communication throughout this meeting has been very difficult for me. So I've heard a bit, but I think the best thing at this point, I've missed quite a bit coming in and out. Sorry. But the last thing and the most important thing, I just wanted to clarify, Tony and everyone, that just to make sure that we're all on the same page, but the contractor never indicated and or initiated communication on relocating residents.
Oh, okay.
That was never ever the case. No. So that was brought up through the ease of eliminating their statements of if they could cap and take the gas line out is the primary issue. So if they can cap the gas line for X amount of days to be determined, that they are going to be getting back to us now that they have the information that we're looking for. That would potentially prompt, a lot less work in that area. So there's a lot of moving parts to that, but they certainly did not have a plan or said, hey, listen, if we can achieve this if the residents are gone. It's been a moving a topic of discussion on how to accommodate and or make temporary facilities usable, and in discussions and within just the last couple of days internally, was it discussed that, well, maybe that's a better option. And then out of that, I discussed just this morning with the contractor. I believe this was discussed yesterday, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, when we initially started to talk about it.
Yes, yesterday afternoon.
So yesterday we discussed this, that maybe this is a viable solution. So
Yeah,
this morning
Right.
I reached out to the contractor.
great. Yeah, thanks, Adrian. I stand corrected. The suggestion
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
come from the
No,
contractor. It was more out of that conversation.
We hear you. Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's again just the gas line that he was talking about. There's a question of perhaps that could be capped, and so the water would be maintained to the homes, but if they could live without gas for a little longer, and yeah, so really out of that discussion, the idea of the hotel offer was it came from that. Yeah. So thanks, Adrian, and yeah, let us know if you have anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were several other things, but I think at the best point, I'll kind of recap. Again, and there were on some of the design changes. I mean, I had some insight on it, and some of the, with respect to the water work versus landside work.
We've lost you, Adrian. Hello. Okay. This is just to show you the traffic plan that's being provided by the contractor. So this plan would be for weekends and overnight. So basically, 2-lane traffic would be maintained throughout the site. The work zone in front of the buildings over here would be their staging area.
Is that fenced in?
It
Is that
will
where
be.
it's line fenced in?
Yes, yeah, so that's certainly in front of these buildings. They've said that there'll be forget what they're called, those barriers that are filled with water, big blocks that would protect that zone. Yeah, and that's along Beach Road.
But is there, like, I see the work zone there, but that orange line above it,
Yeah.
will there be a fence there?
So there'll definitely be a barrier, and it might actually be on here, but not a fence exactly.
I think there's 3-foot plastic barriers.
Yes.
Orange.
Yeah, there's orange plastic barriers. They get filled with water, so they're heavy for slip vehicles.
I just wonder, I mean, they're wider than they're wider and they're short. And it's not gonna prevent access if there's.
Right, yeah, and I think, well, and that's a great point. I mean, do we need something as big as that?
I guess I'm throwing out the question,
Yeah.
one of the issues of job sites is you want to prevent access. You want to, security and safety and liability and everything else, and you don't want it to become tempting for kids or anybody else to climb around there.
Yeah, it's a fence, might be a better, fence panels might be a better option.
Or just throw it out to them, how do they want to protect the site? How do they want to protect their equipment, protect the city from liability and themselves from liability?
Right, yeah, especially over weekends. And when there's not going to be people around during the day even.
And so during the day, it goes to alternative one way.
Yes.
From Peninsula to Main Street.
Right, correct, exactly. And we have flaggers to direct traffic through there. But yeah, this section over here would be one way in one direction and then in another.
Is that expected for 65 days, basically, that configuration, or is that? a portion of the time?
That's, I, I, I would say no, but I couldn't tell you sort of how long it would be. The main thing here would be, this is when that section of road is excavated and you've got that alignment in the street, that work happening, which I think they've called phase one. Yeah, so that's,
Generally
so that
speaking,
would work.
are flaggers deemed more effective and more traffic positive than, you know, fixed signals?
Great question. I think so, because they're able to communicate and, if nobody's coming, they can let people through more quickly. I'm pretty sure that there are AI, signals available these days. So that would probably be ideal, but, I don't know if they're available.
Okay.
But yeah. Yeah. Next one is, so when the work zone is happening, this is phase two. This is when work is happening further down Beach Road towards Main Street. So both lanes would be open, between Peninsula and Cove, and when that's happening, then we have a lane closed between Cove and Main. So yeah, fairly straightforward, but sometimes just visualizing it is useful.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess the next question is whether this group wants to convene again and have another review, or what, how and when we would do that, if we do that.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly, when
I think when we have the numbers to see if there are savings in this alternative, it'd be good to have the next one. Before then, I don't really.
And also the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Yeah, and hopefully a date of construction and sort of
So
mobilizing to.
we'll leave it up to you, but it sounds like it's got to be beginning to middle of June.
Maybe in late June, if
Right.
Well, we should know, I think, by the second week of June, whether whether we're gonna get the permit or not by the 22nd.
Hopefully, yeah, exactly. And basically as soon as we know, then, and I'm hoping these sort of alternative designs and so on can be straightened out long before then, so that everything's ready to go. And the moment we get the word from the Army Corps, we can.
Are you allowed to give written updates to this group, or does it have to be on a public meeting like this?
It's a good question. I can ask Beth. I mean, I think it would be. I don't see why it can't be written.
You probably can do agenda related updates, which that's all we're talking about. This is, these design modifications, yay, no, yes, no go, cost benefit, decisions. As long as we post them appropriately.
Right, yeah.
So maybe do that for these as they're available, modest, quick update based on our meeting last time and post it. I think that should be okay. And then we're clearly gonna need to, understand or make broader decisions should June come and we either do or don't get this permit from ACE. And then you have by that point, clear understanding of whether this can proceed.
Right.
In this window.
Yeah, exactly.
So like you said, end of June.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So it sounds like written updates sort of as they become available.
Don't do a lot because they have to be agenda based and they have to be, I believe you can't bring in new information. I think they have to be based on what we've talked about.
Right.
And you have to follow whatever rules Beth gives you.
Yeah, all the rules, yeah. Yeah, okay, so periodic updates, I guess, based on.
It's only a month away.
Yeah.
So true, yeah.
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks, just say, we've cleared up these design issues, we're gonna do X, or we're gonna do Y. And then we're AC, the Corps of Engineers is here, and we'll talk about it more in this next meeting, just real simple.
Would you like to pencil in a date, sort of mid to late June, just so we've got something on the calendar?
Can do. I'll be remote then, but I'm happy to dial in.
I'm happy to.
Can we do a remote meeting like that, or is that?
As long as we have, I think it's at least two of you three here.
I think I'll be this whole second half of June.
Yeah.
I expect to be away.
Well, why don't, let's choose the week of the 15th, but why don't you, as you get more information, I mean, if everything's going swimmingly and you've got your permits, and we don't need to meet again, so let's target that week and do in the next 2 weeks. You should have more information from the Corps of Engineers, and why don't you, shoot a few proposed times and see if we have a quorum.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's gonna be the issue, whether we can have a quorum to do it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So the week of June 15th, we'll sort of,
Or the 22nd, I mean, like, we'll do the same
15th,
Zoom call
22nd.
and people are able to be there. or
yeah,
not.
right, okay.
The
That's
week
great.
of the 22nd, I'm not here, so if you're gone and I'm gone,
Very gone, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, well, so then the 15th is.
yeah, shoot
a
for
little
the week
bit-
of the 15th, and we'll
Okay.
try to make a quorum there.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. And yeah, thank you. I mean, the only other thing actually to add is the public outreach. And we were planning on having engaged people already, given them details, especially the residents of the homes. We know that there have been articles in the ARC. The conclusion we've come to is that if we don't actually have any details to give them, it may be unhelpful to say there's this big disruptive project coming, but we don't know dates and we don't know which gangways are going to be open and so on. So as soon as we've got a little bit more that we can that we can tell them, then we're gonna move to do that. The homeowners, the residents at 16 to 38 Beach, we'd like to, have as sort of intimate's probably the wrong word, but a informal and sort of on-site communication as possible. So knocking on doors, inviting people to a meeting, and then being able to answer questions directly and giving cards in case there are follow-up questions and so on. And then a bigger workshop, which would be in the community center downstairs, and that would be sort of for everybody. And that would be with, design engineers there to answer questions and present plans. We'd be able to show traffic plans and have more of a show and tell at that point. So those would be the two main public outreach activities, and then a web page on the city website with updates. And yeah, have that
The
available.
webpage definitely, opening up a can of worms if you have a public meeting like that, but
Really?
I mean, I think there's two issues. I mean, one, public, meaning the broad public, I think that's great.
Uh-huh.
I get some feedback from the property owners in relation to the tenants themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If the property owners are okay with it and their tenants are okay with it, I wouldn't go overboard with that.
Okay.
I mean, if we need to, yes, let's go overboard with that. But I'm saying if the property owners and the tenants are okay with what you're doing and so forth, and you've got the proper easement signed.
Yeah, we gotta get the easement signed.
Yeah.
At first,
Yeah.
because we don't want to start raising questions and give someone leverage like, well, we need to get those signed.
Yeah.
Before we do.
I mean,
Yes.
you just to the degree the public knows about this, as if they've been paying attention. And the ARC hasn't talked about it too much, and we haven't really had all things. We have to do some sort of public meeting. I understand. There could be definitely a wrench thrown into these works by something which I can't even think of, but
Yeah.
I guess, but that's the nature of our business.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a very good point. And this is something Robert's definitely more sort of
So with that in mind, you're probably better off doing it sooner than later. I mean, I know you want information to be final and to be as accurate as possible, but
if we're on the verge of getting the easement signed, let's get those signed first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't want them to say, well, before we do that, let me check with my tenants and see what complaints they have and what demands they might have, and then.
Right. Yeah.
So we should push to get those done.
yeah, let's get those signed. Once we know whether we can start this year, and if it's start of August or late August, then we can have the public forum.
I think our biggest opposition is going to come from the Peninsula Road people or Cove Road people, and which, I mean, justifiably, just
Right.
in the end.
disruption. noise,
Traffic
yeah,
impact.
for sure. Yeah,
But we say we're putting a seawall so your house doesn't
I know,
flood.
I
I mean, hopefully people.
So that road doesn't
Yeah.
fall in, yeah.
Your house is not washed away. Okay. Okay, anything else?
nope, that's
All right,
that's it.
so we'll
Thank you, Tony.
adjourn till next time. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. We can adjourn and end the meeting.
Thank you, guys. You know, influences, you know, the lieutenant governor's house, the next.